Hey everybody, what's up? It is BQ. Welcome back here to the channel. I am recording this on my lunch break on my cell phone. Not usually the way that I like to do content, but I kind of wanted to preview this show or just kind of give some real quick predictions. I hadn't really been doing previews for the TNA Plus shows for a while now, just because it happens so quickly after the episode, and the previous episode on a Thursday, and it's just a little difficult to do. And I wanted to kind of go over this one though, because this is just an interesting card to me, because on paper, when you're looking at dates and you see that Victory Road is 2 weeks after Emergence, you're kind of like, okay, this is a throwaway show. They're just throwing matches at you. And they very much could have been very, very random here. But I think for having 2 weeks to build this thing, I think they actually did a pretty decent job. I mean, you would think they can't over 2 weeks. I mean, how do you take 2 weeks and build what's essentially a pay-per-view? So I thought they did a pretty good job. But the reason I kind of wanted to do a preview show here is that I was looking over the card this morning, and it's not predictable. In my opinion, it's not that predictable. You guys might disagree. You might say, hey, I'm looking at these matches, I know exactly who's going to win. I don't think it's that cut and dry. Like, I think we're going to see a surprise or two here with these title changes, because this is a big deal leading up to Bound for Glory, whatever happens at Victory Road. Bound for Glory implications. It's probably something Tom Hannafin will say tonight. Bound for Glory implications. So, if you're looking at, first of all, and I'll start with the more important matches. If you're looking at Nick Nemeth versus Moose, the safe money is Nick Nemeth wins. Nick Nemeth was in WWE. They want Nick Nemeth to headline Bound for Glory. That's where the safe money is, right? We don't know what Nick Nemeth's deal is with TNA. It's never been reported that he was signed long term. I think most of us expect that it's a shorter term deal. It'll probably run through the year, but we don't really know. To me, it's not that cut and dry. I think there's a chance Moose gets the title back here. I would have, honest to God, put the title on freaking Josh Alexander when they had the Iron Man match, personally, but whatever. I think there's a chance that Moose gets it back here, because the system seems to work when they're champions. I know right now they're kind of chasing. I don't know how long they're going to chase, though. I expect at some point, whether it's Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers or Moose, I expect them to get their titles back. The Slammiversary card, or the Slammiversary show, was very much about popping the Canadian crowd and feel-good moments. I didn't think it was time for feel-good moments. To me, Bound for Glory probably makes more sense to do that, but they decided Slammiversary was the feel-good show, and they put titles on people to pop the crowd. And I think there's just a chance that they might get back on course here and put the titles back on some of these guys that lost them. So I think there is a possibility Moose could actually get the belt back, and then they kind of move on to the program with him and Santana, because right now the story is that Santana can't beat him. There's been shenanigans and shit like that going on, but I mean, that's the story. There's an underdog story there, and I think people have more interest in maybe Santana getting the belt ultimately than Nick Nemeth currently holding it. Jordynne Grace taking on Wendy Choo. They built this very, very quickly, and between the two shows, NXT and TNA, they threw it together. And me, I would have loved for this to last just a little bit longer. Maybe Bound for Glory. I don't know what the plan is, obviously, for Grace. No one does for Bound for Glory. This is another one where I'm like, there's a chance that Wendy Choo wins this thing. I'm leaning towards Jordynne Grace, because I don't think Jordynne Grace is going to ultimately lose until she's kind of on her way out the door. I mean, that's usually what they do with I pointed that out with the Mustafa Ali's and the Trinities, but people we knew that were on short-term deals. Jordynne Grace is obviously a totally different ballgame, but I don't think they're going to have Jordynne Grace, lose multiple matches over the next couple of months. So I'm leaning towards Jordynne Grace, but I mean, I can just see a world where, Wendy Choo wins. Like, they want to get the Knockouts title. No, because I was going to say they want to get the Knockouts title on NXT, but I mean, Jordynne Grace has already been on NXT, so and she has the title, so there's no benefit. So I'm going to go actually that Jordynne Grace wins this one. Now, with Zachary Wentz and Mike Bailey, that was one where they put the title on Zachary Wentz, and I think he was already part of NXT, so it's kind of like, hey, we want to get the title on their show. We want to put some stakes on the match with Wesley. I actually think they're going to hotshot this shit, and I think Mike Bailey's going to win the title right back. Now, they made Mike Bailey wrestle Rich Swann, even though Rich Swann didn't deserve a title shot. They made him qualify for his own Ultimate X match that he lost. They did that to give him a couple wins so he didn't look like a complete goof. But I mean, I don't see TNA having the X Division Championship on a tag team guy like this. Because if Zachary Wentz, I pointed this out on my last review, if he was not working with NXT, he wouldn't. At no point would he be the X Division champion. I'm confident in saying that TNA would never put that belt on him if he wasn't doing stuff with NXT. So now that story's kind of over, I think Mike Bailey's getting the title right back. So we'll see. I think they're hot-shotting the shit out of this title right now after the long title reign of Mustafa Ali. ABC versus the System. Now, this is another one, too. Did the System get their belts back here? They're teasing this ABC breakup. It's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen. And the company probably felt they needed the belts to do it. I don't agree. I mean, if you're going to break them up, just break them up. Most fans don't want them to break up, but I think that is what's ultimately going to happen. And maybe this is where it happens. Maybe this is where they drop the belts and the System get them back. I'm confident that some form of the male version, male members of the System are getting belts back tonight. I don't know if it's Moose. I don't know if it's Brian Myers or Eddie Edwards. Could be both. But I feel pretty confident that one of the two entities is getting belts back. Militia takes on Spitfire. I think Militia is 100% losing the belts here. I think that's definitely going to happen. I think they're probably going to split the Militia up here. I think it's going to be a theme of splitting up teams. Because someone's splitting up here. Because if Spitfire loses, they're splitting up. They're not going to do that. They don't have tag teams. No one really cares about Spitfire that much. I'm not saying they don't have their fans, but no one's really asking for them to be the champions, but the company really wants them to be champions. And no one really cares. I think most people actually prefer Militia as the title holders, but because they're doing a story, they went back to basics, all this bullshit, they're going to win. And I've been saying Spitfire is going to wrestle until they win the titles. That's what the freaking story has been. At no point has it seemed like, okay, Militia's beat them, now they're moving on. Because there's no one to move on to, so these two teams are just going to wrestle until the titles change. And then who knows if they're going to have a rematch, because at that point it's like, fuck, are we watching this again? That's why I think they're going to break them up. I don't see Tom Hannafin contractually obligated rematch for the Militia. There's no way these fuckers are fighting again. So I think Spitfire is going to win, and then Militia breaks up and whatever. Joe Hendry taking on Josh Alexander. I actually have no idea what's going to happen here. Josh really doesn't need the loss, but Joe Hendry doesn't need a loss either. They've kind of been beating both of these guys, kind of, sort of. I would argue that neither of them is on a hot streak right now. I know that Joe Hendry's over, but I would argue that neither of them are on any kind of hot streak. And they had a blood feud here, and they chose not to go that direction. They chose to have Joe Hendry hang out with Santana and whoever else and fuck around with the system, because the system are in the main event. So they're like, oh, let's have Joe Hendry involved in the main event, rather than this, like, we'll say for sake of argument, it's a mid-card feud. You know, we know that they're not going to end the show with it. But I think that the company felt Joe Hendry benefited more from being in the main event. I don't personally. I would have gone to this right away. They didn't, though, for whatever reason. I don't think there's going to be a finish here. I think there's going to actually be no finish. I think there's going to be no contest. Even though they just did that with Josh, neither of these guys need to lose at Victory Road. I mean, they really don't. For a fucking TNA Plus show, neither of these guys need to lose. So I think there's going to be another kind of no finish. I could see Josh Alexander nutshotting him and getting disqualified. The Hardys taking on the new version of First Class. I think at Bound for Glory they're going to try to do a 4 tag team fuckfest. That's what I think. I don't think we're going to get like 2-on-2. But the Hardys, I definitely expect to win the titles at Bound for Glory, and I think they're going to win here as well. This match here, now I haven't watched the episode yet. I'm actually going to watch it here in a little bit. PCO and the Convenient Store Machine, Rhino, taking on Steph Double D Lander and Matt Cardona. I don't know what the hell this is. Maybe it'll make a little more sense if I watch the episode. Why they're doing a girl on one team and 2 fat guys on the other, I don't know. I don't understand, but I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Cardona is also not cleared for this match, which is so stupid. If you book the match, the guy's supposed to be cleared, right? Like Matt Cardona keeps coming out, oh, I'm not cleared. Well, why were you booked? That's what one of the weird loopholes in wrestling, weird logic holes, I should say. I don't know what to expect out of this match. I kind of think that Cardona is going to pull him and Steph DeLander from the match and have, like, it might be Shira and fucking Khan or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Because Cardona's kind of running from PCO right now. So they're not going to have Cardona wrestle him on TNA Plus. And then Steve Maclin and Eric Young versus Naked Jake and Hammerstone. Remember Hammerstone and Jake were going to have a match a few weeks ago? I think a lot of people actually wanted to see that, but now they're both heels. But yeah, they were supposed to have a TNA Plus match. Jake was walking around naked backstage and made loud noises to Hammerstone, who had a t-shirt on, but he also made loud noises, and they created a feud out of that. And even though it was thrown together, it was literally bumping into each other backstage. People wanted to see that match, and it doesn't seem like we're going to now. So this is kind of a cool, this is an interesting pre-show match, because we've got we're assuming Maclin is a babyface now, Jake is heel, and it's interesting. It's interesting. And then Kushida, he was advertised on one website as taking on Leo Rush here. I don't believe that's correct. I think he's taking on Leon Slater in what they'll probably call an X Division showcase match. And Kushida's going to win here, because Kushida's looked like a fucking idiot on TV lately. So they need to get him a win. We haven't seen Leon Slater on TV in a little while, who I'm really high on. That kid is good. That kid is very, very good, but they're gonna get Kushida a win here to minimize the way he's looked on TV lately. So I hope this sounded okay for you guys on the phone. I don't have time to go home and really do any kind of review show before the show comes on. So of course, leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.